So let's just say you wanted to build a house. One of the first things that you've got to start with when practically, physically building it, once you've got the plan out of the way, is of course the foundations. Everything is built upon the foundations. If the foundations of the house are janky, they're not done properly, the house is not going to last a very long time, or you might not even be able to build it properly because it's going to fall down. So everything starts from the foundations. When it comes to building a business, foundations is the equivalent of your mindset. If your mindset is in the wrong space, you're not going to be able to build a great business. Now, I've taken a piss out of mindset before in the past, but funny matter is that I've spent a lot, and I mean a lot of hours, if not days and months, if you were to combine all the time that I've studied about mindset. Everything that you need to know about how to actually stay resilient and build a good, great, successful, sustainable business. So in this video, this is part one of 2 videos that I'm going to be going over specifically about mindset. And I want you to pay attention because this is very, very key. In a lot of these videos, I talk about a lot of practical things that you must do and press here and build that and message here, which is great. You can listen to those and take action. But these 2 videos I'm about to film and show for you guys, this is, if anything, more important because like I mentioned, these are the foundations that you must have in place, and then you're able to skyrocket and build your business. So let's go straight into it. In this video, we're gonna go over the 5 things that we'll start with. So number 1 is embracing failure, right? So I think a lot of people, they think of failure as this scary thing that they're trying to avoid. What's crazy is, you get to a certain point in business, and hopefully the sooner the better, and this is why I'm giving you guys this is lesson number 1, because you can do this from day 1. Me, I learned it the hard way, is switching your mindset from avoiding failure to actually embracing and wanting to find more failures and mistakes, because there's always a lesson underneath there, right? Or after a fuck up or a failure, there's always a lesson to learn. And whether you realize it or not, there's always lessons within everything. If you take full responsibility and full accountability of everything that happens within your life and your business particular, then all of a sudden you start to realize that there are lessons within everything, right? So if you live life and you're building your business with no accountability, you're always blaming others or on certain things, oh, but yeah, because of that, this failed and so on and so on. You're always putting blame on others, which means you're running away from the failure. You're kind of avoiding it, right? Instead of taking accountability, even if perhaps that problem or that issue wasn't your fault, but if you take full responsibility, all of a sudden you start to think, how could I have avoided that thing? Could I have said something at the beginning? Could I have connected this person to a different person? When I was connecting this person, could I have it done a different way, right? When I was doing this service, could I have it done it in a different way, right? So all of a sudden, you start to take full responsibility, and all of the failures within your business and your life come down to you. And the reason why that's so important is because then you start to understand that there are lessons within all of those things. And it's inevitable you're going to fail, and no matter what you do. You watching this right now, if you are driving, if you have a license, when you first got in that car, were you great at driving? Probably not, right? When you first start driving and you're having your first driving lessons, music is off, both hands on the steering wheel, fully focused, looking straight forward, sitting upright, right? And you have full focus because you're scared of making a mistake, and you probably will make a few mistakes. You have a couple of more lessons that you pass your test, you get your car. Now, all of a sudden, only a month or 2 months into the driving, right? And now you know how to drive. You got one hand, maybe even you're driving with your knees, you're eating a full course meal, you're on the phone to somebody. I'm not advising that, by the way. But the idea is, right, you got music and so on and so on. The idea I'm trying to say is when you're starting out, you're gonna fail because you're so focused, there's so many things going on, and you're gonna fail. But then you learn from these mistakes, you learn from these things, and then from there on you get so comfortable, you get so good that you don't have to think about these certain things, and that's how you develop and get better. The next point that I want to talk about that I've got written down here is developing your resilience, right? I think a lot of times I get the question of, has money made you more happier, or are you more stressed now that you have money, and all these different things, and do you have now more problems or less problems now that you have money? And what's interesting is none of that really changes. What does change is to handle these stressful situations. So when you're first starting out, maybe you writing an email, reaching out to a potential client, picking up the phone or doing a Zoom call with a potential client is super stressful. Maybe when you're starting out, that is what's really making you worried and stressed, right? And then eventually maybe you get a client and he or she doesn't pay, or something happens and that really stresses you out. But then eventually you get to a point where you're managing 50, 100, maybe even at some point I'll be managing 1,000 staff members. Right now we have about 40 people all around the world that practically rely on me and my business to be able to feed themselves and their family, right? Pay for their mortgage or their rent and so on. So then you start to realize, okay, well, these are the problems and these are the issues and responsibilities that I have, and your resilience kind of builds, because the bigger the problem, the more stronger you become. I think it's like a muscle, you kind of build on it, right? When you're starting out and you go to the gym for the first time, you're not very strong, you can't perhaps lift heavy weights, but then over time, over 5, 6, 10 years, you become stronger and you're able to lift heavier weights with ease, right? So I think resilience is kind of the same thing. It's all in your mindset. You build it. I think it's like a muscle. Over time, you get better and better. And last thing I'll say about this is, in life, you're always going to have ups and downs. That's why I can't answer the question of has it made me happy or has it given me more or less problems. I mean, there are some months where it's just sunshine and rainbows and everything's going great and we've hit a record month and made a lot of money. There are some months where maybe perhaps I have to fire some people because they've been dickheads. Maybe something happens with a payment processor and we've lost £70,000. All of these things are true, right? But all of a sudden, again, you get lessons from these things, same as the first tip that I gave you guys. And you just become more resilient from these things, and it doesn't let you affect it. You have to take your emotion away from business. Now, the next point is continuous learning. Again, tying back into the first one, which is every failure, you get a lesson out of it, right? But you could also be proactive at kind of trying to learn these things and avoid these different mistakes by constantly keeping on top of the industry that you're in. Doesn't matter what, I'm assuming most of you guys watching this are in OFM or some sort of an online business. Making sure that you're constantly watching more videos, learning, reading articles, staying up to news on what's happening, what's going to happen, so you're one step ahead. So whether that is like reading articles, like I said, watching videos, speaking with other like-minded people, investing into other mentors and coaching courses and so on. It doesn't matter how you do it, but making sure that you continuously develop and learn your skills. Here's, again, I love to kind of give you guys practical advice that I've learned the hard way, right? So for me, there was a certain point where within my business, not that I thought I knew everything, but I kind of just stopped developing my skills and stopped learning proactively, right? I would just kind of wait until a problem happened and be like, all right, let's try and fix this. But prior to that, I would constantly be obsessed with my business. I'd constantly be speaking to loads of people, learning proactively. And when I had that period where I just stopped learning and I thought I was kind of, oh, look at me, I know what I'm doing, I'm making loads amount of cash, this and that. That's when the failures start to happen, and that's when the failures happen at such a rapid pace where you can't even keep up with all of it. But if you constantly stay ahead of the curve and you know what's about to come, you're able to set systems, you're able to hire people in place to avoid these certain failures to happen. The next one is setting clear goals for yourself, right? Again, this might seem like a common one for a lot of people. It's like, oh, you want to set goals and da-da-da-da. But what do I mean by that? Like for me, when I say it, I think it needs to be measurable, right? So you need to be able to have an end goal. First of all, you need to know exactly what it is. What is it? Okay, you want a car. What car? What color? Obviously what brand? What year? Exactly, make sure you know exactly what it is that you want. Then you can work your way backwards. For example, again, let's use the car. If you are, watching this and you don't even have a driving license, but this is your goal, you want that car. Well, my friend, you need to work your way backwards. Okay, first I need a driving license. First I need to do my theory. First I need to do a few driving lessons, right? You kind of work your way backwards, realize how much all these things are going to cost you, how much is the car going to cost you, and now you can start saving towards it and actually working towards a goal. Not only that, within your business as well. Okay, great, maybe this month you hit a goal of 20,000 and this is your first month of making 20K. Okay, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to just celebrate and that's it? Or are you going to set another goal for 30, 40,000? Are you actually pushing yourself? Because I think a lot of people, they start to do somewhat great, in terms of business, but then they stop doing the things that got them there in the first place, such as being hungry, setting goals, striving for more, right? And not only that, making sure that you're focusing on a goal that actually means something to you. Because if it's a goal that doesn't really matter, doesn't give you that kind of extra motivation to stay up till 3 in the morning and just make sure you finish in that task, then you're not really going to get there, right? Making sure that the goal that you're setting for yourself is something that you truly desire. You need this thing in your life. It can be a physical thing, it can be whatever. It can be helping your parents or your family, whoever it is. And the last point that I'll mention in this part 1, make sure you watch out for part 2, making sure you are adaptable, right? So naturally as humans, we don't necessarily like change. I'll give you a prime example. How many times has your favorite social media platform, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is, there's a new update that's come out and you've hated it at first. You're like, oh, why have they done this? This is so stupid. Or when a phone is updated and no longer you have the button, you now have to look into the camera and swipe up, or there's a new feature of some sort. And at first you're like, why have they done this? This is so stupid. I don't like it. But then eventually you kind of come to adapt with that certain new change or improvement, and all of a sudden you're like, how did I live my life without this thing? This thing is so fucking great. And as humans, that's just naturally how we are. We don't like change. We like to be safe, and what is safe is where we are right now, what we're doing, how we are, and so on. So in business, you need to be able to be quick and nimble on your feet and be able to adapt. So a couple of practical things, like when somebody gives you advice, it's, only if somebody's doing better than you, make sure you listen to that. If it's something that you maybe disagree with, or it's something different that you're doing right now, I'm not saying you have to do exactly what they tell you to do just because they're doing better than you. However, if they are doing better than you in business, there's probably a reason for that, right? So at least if you disagree with it, absolutely fine, but at least consider it, look into it, ask them further questions so you fully understand why and how they do that certain thing. But making sure you're able to adapt to certain things, especially in OFM. Social media marketing is always forever changing. So you need to adapt with social media marketing all the time. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you come back on this channel for part 2 on exactly how to develop the right mindset.